Tonight I am going to get rich white lady drunk, listen to Ariana Grande's album, watch TV, probably watch the 6th season of Schitt's Creek, and go to sleep by like 10 p.m. I don't want to see or hear anything until tomorrow. Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is a bit of a different one. Today is election day in the good old United States of America. This is one of those elections that kind of like defines a generation. Whichever direction it goes in, I'm suspecting that a bunch of shit is about to go down. So what I wanted to do today is just come on here, come on YouTube, film a nice, chill, relaxed video that people can watch either on the evening of election day, if you, like me, are avoiding all of the news coverage of it, or in the days after, as I predict, the United States will be descending into a burning hellfire. So that's what we're here to do today. I'm literally just going to sit here, drink my chai that I got from the coffee shop. Hold on. This is a series that I'm hoping will continue on my channel, of me like putting makeup on my face and talking about books that I've been reading recently, because I feel like it really combines two of my favorite videos to watch on YouTube, which are makeup chit chat get ready with me's, where makeup gurus talk about literally fucking nothing and just like put makeup on, and sometimes it's stuff, you know, sometimes they're like having conversations, but just I love like listening to people talk as they put makeup on. But also book reviews. I love watching book reviews and watching people talk about books that I'm interested in reading or that I have read, and like getting their perspective. So I think I can meld those two things together in this here video. I don't want to talk. I might end up doing it because I know who I am. I know what kind of person I am, but I don't want to talk about politics tonight. You know what I'm going to do tonight? Tonight I am going to get rich white lady drunk, listen to Ariana Grande's album, watch TV, probably watch the 6th season of Schitt's Creek, and go to sleep by like 10 p.m. I don't want to see or hear anything until tomorrow. You know why? Because election day 2016 was very traumatic for me. It was my first year of college. I was a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed 18-year-old. It was my first year voting in a presidential election. I remember being so sure of which direction it was going to go until literally the week before the election, when I was like, oh shit, people actually like listen to and really like Donald Trump. So I was like nervous and anxious the whole day. And then I tried to go to sleep early, but I couldn't because I was in a fucking dorm and I couldn't afford one of those like expensive plushy mattress pads. So I just was like up on Twitter scrolling as the shit went down, and then I managed to fall asleep for like 2 hours from midnight to 2 a.m. woke up at 2 a.m. and literally everyone on my hall, like the girls on my hall and the boys from the floor above, came down, and they were like all in the common room talking about what had just happened. Nobody could sleep. Nobody felt peace. Everybody was just in the common room talking about how the election had not gone the way that we thought it would. So today I am unplugging. I'm not getting involved. I'm going to go to sleep. I did my part. I voted for who I knew in my heart that I needed to vote for. And now I'm going to go to sleep. I mean, I'm going to have some fun. So yeah, if you're interested in watching me put on some makeup and just like talk about the like Percy Jackson series a lot, like talk at length about Riordan's books, please stay tuned. If that's not something that interests you, I totally understand. I hope that you find something somewhere that makes you feel relaxed in what I'm sure is going to be an incredibly chaotic day. Oh yeah, I wanted to say, like, before I got started, you can probably see in the background, like, that my background looks different. I redid my room with the help of my lovely niece and her amazing best friend. We repainted the room a different color. It was a whole ordeal. I filmed so much of it, so I'm hoping that there's like so much fucking footage. I don't even want to sift through it, but I'm hoping that that video will be up like in a week or two, because it's really exciting for me. I love my new room. I love the color. I love what I've done with it, and it feels definitely like me right now. So yes, this is a sneak peek, and if you're interested in seeing how I planned this, how I ended up doing it, and what the final look of my room is like, I will be filming a video about that very soon. I am going to start talking about Rick Riordan's book series. So basically, oh yes, I'm using the Jackie Aina palette by Anastasia Beverly Hills. It's fucking beautiful. Like, I don't know, can you see that? It's absolutely gorgeous. I got this at the beginning of quarantine because it was on sale, and I had been wanting it for a while, but I was like emming and awing about it, and then it went on sale and I got it, and I should have bought it way longer ago. Like, the colors are so beautiful, and they're rich enough to actually like show up on my skin and look like something. I don't know. I just love them. This isn't a makeup video. This isn't like, I'm not trying to sell you makeup, but I love this palette. So yeah, I'm going to start talking about Rick Riordan's book series. I like to call it the Percy Jackson Extended Universe because it's not just the Percy Jackson series. There's also the follow-up books, the Heroes of Olympus and the Trials of Apollo. Oh, I already have makeup on my face because I'm having to refilm this part because I'm pretty hungry and I haven't eaten properly like all day, and I wanted to film this before lunch so I could get it up. That was stupid. So I was not doing great at the beginning of quarantine. I needed something that was going to get me back into reading. I decided to turn to the Percy Jackson series because I knew that so I've reread Harry Potter a whole bunch of times. I don't think I ever reread Percy Jackson after I finished it. It wasn't like, it wasn't because I didn't like it, I just like never thought to do it really. So I decided to reread it, first of all because of that, and second of all because I knew that there was a sequel series that I knew nothing about, and I wanted to read that because I just had never read that one when I was a kid. Like, it just never, I don't know why, it just like didn't appeal to me really when I was a kid. I didn't really care about like Roman gods and goddesses. So this summer I was like, I'll read Percy Jackson, I'll read the sequel series. It'll be nice and fun, you know? So I started with The Lightning Thief in May, and essentially like I didn't remember anything about this series until like past the first book. Like I had such vague memories of everything that had happened in the series past the first book. I don't really know why that is. Maybe it's because I watched The Lightning Thief, the movie, a few times when I was a kid, and so that's why I remember The Lightning Thief, the book, so well, because I like never watched Sea of Monsters because I heard it was bad. But yeah, so I decided to read the Percy Jackson series, and it was fun and accomplished my goal for the most part. The first book was super fun because I just was kind of like getting back into this book that I hadn't read in a really long time, and I remembered, like I said, a lot of the beats from it. Like I remembered when they went to Auntie M's like garden or whatever, and they found Grover's Uncle Ferdinand, and I remembered when they went to California and had to go to the underworld, and like kind of when when Percy fought Ares on the beach in California. And I really remembered like the Lotus Hotel and Casino, like that whole part in Las Vegas, because that's such like an iconic thing, that's such an iconic moment in children's literature. So I had some memories of the first book, and it was fun to just like get back into this like book that was such a fun ride for me as a kid. And the second book was really fun too, The Sea of Monsters, because that's the one that's kind of like the Odyssey. And I remember reading the Odyssey in middle school and really liking it. I don't know why, I was such a fucking weirdo. But I really enjoyed it when I was in middle school, so it was fun to read the second book that's kind of like a retelling of that. When you get into the next books, like the 3rd through 5th one, those ones I didn't have as much fun reading, but I did still enjoy them, you know, because the 3rd one is kind of like when people start dying, and people that I really liked and enjoyed. So it was like, and I know it's weird that I put concealer all over my face, but I literally can't find a foundation color that matches me, and this like Nars Soft Matte Complete Concealer in Amande is the only thing that like vaguely blends into my skin. Like even the Radiant Creamy Concealer in Amande like doesn't match me. I don't know what it is. I have like a super weird skin tone. But back to Percy Jackson. So the 3rd book made me sad because people that I really liked died. And then the 4th book, I remember the 4th book, for some reason, I don't even know why, I was super anxious reading that one. Like the whole time reading it, I was so anxious to the point where I had to spoil it for myself on, like the Percy Jackson wiki. I had to just like go on there and read what ended up happening in that book because I couldn't take it. Because I didn't remember pretty much anything about the 4th book at all. And so like going through the process of finding out things all over again, like I just don't think that I was really in the mental space to actually be prepared to do that. So I just like I had to spoil it for myself. But I did really like the final book of that series, The Last Olympian. So this is something that I think about like all of Rick Riordan's series. I feel like the Percy Jackson series is the strongest one in terms of the conflict and, in terms of the conflict and the central character. Like Percy is, in my opinion, his most interesting protagonist, and the conflict in that series is, in my opinion, the most compelling one. Like you never really know if the Titans are going to prevail. Like you kind of know that they won't because it's a children's book, and so why would the good guys lose in a children's book that's just like rude to do to kids? But at the same time, it's like they're so powerful that you just don't even know if these like 11 through 15-year-olds are going to be able to beat them. So that I thought was really compelling about The Last Olympian, because it like at every beat in the book, it's like, what's gonna happen? Like you kind of like, does that make sense? Like you kind of don't know what's going to happen next and where, like if our heroes will prevail. And I really like the concept of The Last Olympian. Like I really like Hestia as a goddess in that book. If you haven't read it before, it's basically like she is the last Olympian. She's the keeper of the hearth on Olympus, and if the hearth goes out, then the Olympians essentially lose their power. And she's like the least assuming Olympian. She's the least powerful in terms of like what she can do, but she's also, I think, the oldest. And I don't know, I just really like her. I like the like kind of like young virgin goddesses. Like I love Artemis in this series. I love Hestia. I suddenly can't think of any more, but I just think that they're really fun. So I read that series, and I also liked, okay, so the other thing about the final book that I enjoyed was that the ending was kind of a subversion of what you thought the great prophecy in the series was going to end up being about. Like, I don't exactly remember, but like you think that the hero in the final prophecy in that series is Percy, but actually it turns out being somebody else. So that was just really interesting to me. So I overall had a really good time reading that series, even though I was kind of anxious when I was reading the fourth one. Then I started the Heroes of Olympus, and I didn't dislike the Heroes of Olympus, but I definitely don't think that it's Rick Riordan's best book. I haven't read any of his books outside of the Percy Jackson Extended Universe, but I just don't think they are his best work. Basically, the idea is that it's introducing the Roman gods into the like world of Percy Jackson. So the Greek gods have like split personalities. So there's like their Roman iterations and then their Greek iterations, and their Roman iterations are like more warlike and more serious. And their Greek iterations are kind of a little bit less. They're just like not as aggressive as the Roman ones are. Me personally, when I was growing up, I was a Greek mythology girl. I know it seems like I'm blending this a lot, but I hate when it looks like I'm wearing makeup. Me personally, when I was growing up, I was a Greek mythology girl, and so like I didn't really care about Roman mythology. So when I learned that the follow-up, I didn't care about Roman mythology because like it wasn't as fun as Greek mythology was. And now being older, I know that there are a lot of issues with Greek mythology in terms of like sexism, mainly sexism. But like when I was a kid, I was reading like the kids' versions of Greek myths and the kids' versions of Roman myths, and the Roman myths just were never interesting to me. So, oh, that's the Glossier Cloud Paint. I think it's in Storm. Yes, I love it. Oh, I love it. It's an amazing blush. But, so yeah, I was reading like the kids' versions, and I just thought the Romans were boring. So, I didn't care about the series when I was growing up, and low-key, I don't care about it now. Oh, that feels bad to say. I don't super care. I'm gonna attempt to blend this in with a brush. I never use brushes, so this might be an utter fail, but who knows. Just like, I feel like Riordan didn't do the best job of making the, oh fuck, that's beautiful. I always blend this in with a sponge, but maybe a brush is the way to go. That looks amazing. Sorry. I don't think that he did the best job of making the Roman gods, like the Roman demigods and the Roman camp, actually seem interesting and compelling enough that I cared what was happening to them, you know? So I don't really know how to frame this. Starting the series with a protagonist that's unfamiliar after you have such a beloved protagonist is a bold move. And I think I didn't quite like the Heroes of Olympus series as much as the Percy Jackson series, because it just felt to me like the Percy's counterpart in the Roman camp, Jason, I just felt like Riordan never knew what he wanted him to be. He never knew who he wanted Jason to be. The first book, Jason is really serious, and he's all about following the rules and doing things the right way. And then by the time we see him again in the third book, he's kind of just Percy light. Percy is super, Percy does everything his own way, you know? He doesn't quite follow the rules. He doesn't have reverence. He doesn't have reverence for the gods the way that other demigods might. He just doesn't. He has this whole devil may care attitude. And Jason kind of adopts that too, but in the process he just becomes another Percy, which makes him not as interesting because we already have Percy and we love Percy because we got to be in his head for 5 books. I think the other problem that I had with the Heroes of Olympus series is that it's told in the third person perspective, and I just don't feel like that is the strongest perspective for Rick Riordan. I just don't feel like he's the best at writing that. It's like this third person limited that is in the points of view of different... It's so complicated. So there's like these 7 demigods, right, who have to fight Gia and her giants. 3 Roman, 4 Greek. Jason, Piper, his girlfriend, who's Cherokee. Leo Valdez, who's a Mexican kid from Houston. Hazel Levesque, who is a child of Pluto, who... She has a whole complicated backstory, but she's a child of Pluto and she's really old school. Frank Zhang, who's from Canada. He's a child of Mars. And then Percy and Annabeth from the Percy Jackson series. So, why did I even start explaining what that was? Oh, yes. So, like, the 7 demigods are... The book is told alternatively from their perspective. The books are told alternatively from their perspective. So, like, some books are just some people's perspective, other books are just other people's perspectives, but it's not as interesting to me as when Rick Riordan writes in the first person. I think he's really good at writing in the first person, especially for protagonists who make decisions that might not always make sense to people who are not them. And also, like, I think it works to make his protagonists more interesting and compelling. Whereas, like, the third person, we got Hazel, Frank. We met these new characters. Hazel, Frank, Jason, Piper, Leo, all for the first time in the Heroes of Olympus series. And we never got to be inside their heads the same way we were able to be inside of Percy's head. And so they never were as interesting to me as Percy and Annabeth were reading this series. Well, Leo was. Leo is, like, super likable because he's kind of, like, goofy and funny, but not in the way that Percy is. He's kind of, like, his own character. The way that Jason is, like, Percy without all of the goofy, funny characteristics, if that makes sense. So, I liked Leo. I liked Hazel off jump because she's black. I'm just gonna say that. I liked her because she's black. I think Frank is interesting, but I do kind of feel like there's some things in his portrayal. Because he's Chinese. So that I just feel like there's a few interesting things going on there. But, like, yeah, I wasn't as interested in Jason and Piper as I was in the other characters in this series. They seem like their main thing is that they're, like, hot and dating each other, and they, like, don't have any other personality outside of that. Piper gets better as the books go on, but Jason still, like, by the end of the series, I still didn't care about him, and I didn't even really care about him until the sequel series, The Trials of Apollo. So I really just feel like the Heroes of Olympus flops. It doesn't flop, but it's a struggle. It was hard for me to get through and finish because I didn't like the perspective. I felt like there were all these new characters that I was struggling to connect to. The other thing was that, like, the Roman camp, so his like explanation for why the Greek and Roman camps split is that they disagreed about what side they were going to be on in the Civil War. You know, the one that was about slavery? So, me being black, I was like, of course the Greeks were on the side of the Union because they're based in New York. So does that mean that the Romans were on the side of the Confederacy? Were there no black Roman demigods in the 1860s? And if there were, they were just like, yeah, we love slavery. Like, what? I don't know. To me, it seemed unnecessary for him to even include the Civil War. And it made it so that from the beginning, I didn't like any of the Roman demigods. And then he introduced one of them and she was black. And I was like, fuck, I know what you're doing, Rick. But at the same time, it's like, he didn't need to do that. He didn't need to do that. So that's another like stumbling block that the Romans had getting me to like them the entire time. And then the other thing was that like the conflict just never seemed as real or as serious as the conflict between the Titans, Percy and the Titans. Like, Gia and the Giants just never seemed to me to be like a compelling threat in the series. So pretty much, if you're not familiar, Gia is the Earth Mother. She's like the goddess of the earth, I guess, and she created all of the beings that inhabit Greek and Roman mythology. I thought, she also created the giants after the first Titan War because she was upset that the Olympians had overthrown her children, the Titans, even though the Titans were doing exactly what her husband Uranos had done and eating their children to prevent them from taking over, essentially. Like Uranos ate the Titans so that they wouldn't take over the world from him, and then Kronos ate his children, the Olympians, so that they wouldn't take over the world for him. And for some reason, Gia takes the side of the Titans. I don't know. It doesn't really make any sense to me. But her and the Giants just never seemed like a threat to me. Like, each book, the Greek demigods and the Roman demigods, like, defeat a giant or two giants that they have essentially been, like, assigned to defeat for that book. And it's so easy for them to defeat them, even though they need, like, the help of a god in order to defeat a giant. It happens so quickly that I was like, how is this gonna go in the final battle? And in the final battle, it essentially goes exactly the same. They've defeated all of the giants within, like, the first 2 minutes of the fight. And then they have to go back to New York to defeat Gia. And I don't know. Me personally, I'm an earthy ass bitch. Okay? I like the earth. I like the grass, the trees, the smells, the flowers. The idea of Mother Earth being evil and an antagonist, it's not for me. I didn't never like that to begin with. And then it doesn't even, I don't know, like I said, it just like doesn't really make sense to me why she has sided with the Titans when they're doing precisely what she like destroyed her literal husband for doing. I don't know. It didn't make sense to me why she would be against the Olympians. So the conflict just like it didn't ever feel as compelling as the one in the Percy Jackson series felt. So the Heroes of... I just stabbed myself in the eye with the mascara wand. That was fun.
That's a sign.
What do you mean that's a sign?
It's a sign for you to stop recording so we can eat.
Yeah, I asked my niece to help me record, and she was hungry. And so was I. That's why I was so snippy. I'm sorry, Lillian. I'm sorry. I have one more book series to talk about, and then I will stop recording. I promise. I promise, Lillian. Okay. Yeah, let me move on, because I agree, it is a sign, and I need to stop talking about this. Heroes of Olympus would give the whole series overall a 3 out of 5. I would give the Percy Jackson series a 4.5 out of 5. Then I started reading after the Heroes of Olympus, The Trials of Apollo, because at the end of the Heroes of Olympus series, Apollo, the god, is tossed from Olympus and turned into a mortal as punishment for his involvement in the war with Gia. This, again, made no sense to me. I don't understand what he did wrong or why Zeus blamed him for the war with Gia, but that doesn't matter because I got a fun book series out of it, okay? I personally love the Trials of Apollo series. I think it's so fun because it's Rick Riordan going back to his roots. It's written from the first person perspective of the god Apollo, about him and his like human companion Meg McCaffrey. She's not his companion, she's his owner. He's her slave. He has to do whatever she says, because that's like part of his punishment as human. him and Meg, who's a daughter of Demeter. Demeter, by the way, is one of my favorite Greek goddesses because she's the goddess of harvest, and she gave birth to the goddess of spring, Persephone, who is my favorite Greek goddess. So Meg is a daughter of Demeter, and they have to essentially defeat these like 3 evil Roman emperors who have managed to like make themselves immortal. They have to defeat them and stop them from things to like bookmark moments in audiobooks. Anyway, I'm having a great time. It's first person. So Apollo used to be a god, and if you're familiar with Greek and Roman mythology, Apollo is probably one of the worst. He seems pretty innocuous because he's like the god of the sun and music and poetry and medicine and all of these things, but like throughout Greek mythology he's constantly assaulting people and punishing them for not being in love with him and giving them donkey ears because they didn't give him the top prize at a music festival. Like all of these things. He's not great. He's kind of like a jackass. So this book is his redemption arc, so to speak. He becomes human and he has to learn what it really means to be human, to have your life at risk constantly, and not be able to do like godly powerful things that he was able to do, like playing music and healing people and himself and setting people on fire with lightning, stuff like that. So he has to like really redeem himself over the course of this series, and it's a fun journey to trek, mostly because throughout like the Percy Jackson series and the Heroes of Olympus, Riordan doesn't really contend with the sexism in Greek and Roman mythology, and there is a lot of it. The gods are not great in his book series, but they're not great in mythology either, and a lot of it is because they're like constantly sexually assaulting people and forcing them to fall in love with them, turning into animals and seducing them. Yeah, it's not great. So this book series, I'm enjoying it because it feels like Riordan is like contending with the sexism in his source material, but also contending with the imperialism and the legacy of Rome. Like I said, the antagonists are these 3 emperors from Rome who have managed to make themselves immortal. And when we're reading like the Heroes of Olympus series, there's kind of this like veneration of Rome as a civilization, even though they did a lot of shit things in the process of taking over like all of Europe and North Africa. And this series, it feels like Rick Riordan is really being like, let's actually interrogate why we think Rome is so great, why people are so obsessed with like the Roman era and going back to that time, and like interruptions in the process of me trying to film this video that I can't. But anyways, I was talking about the Trials of Apollo series. Oh yeah, he's like trying to contend with the legacy of Rome and trying to deal with why, like who we venerate and why. I'm having a great time reading it. I sped through the first 4 books over like the month of September, I think. And I'm currently I'm about to start the last one. I'm listening to it on audiobook because it's free from my library. If you have the Libby app, this is a plug. It's not sponsored because Lord knows I don't have enough subscribers for a sponsorship. But it's this app that you can essentially like link your library card to it and check out ebooks and audiobooks from the library for free using that. So I'm using that to listen to the Trials of Apollo series, and I'm having a great time, but there is like a 9-week wait for the final book of the series. I didn't know. I thought that the series had ended. Like I thought all of the Percy Jackson series were over, and so I don't know why. I just assumed that the Trials of Apollo was over, but the last book actually came out in like October of this year. So I'm waiting for it from the library because it's new and I'm sure there's a lot of children who would like to read it. Yeah, but I'm excited to see where it goes, how it ends. I love the characters in it, and even the characters that I didn't really like in the Heroes of Olympus series, I enjoy them so much more getting to see them through Apollo's eyes in the Trials of Apollo series. And I think that's because Rick Riordan excels at writing in the first person. Like, Apollo is not a likable character by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, he fucking sucks most of the time. But he has like a real character arc that you're able to track from the first person in a way that I feel like you weren't able to with the heroes from like the Heroes of Olympus, you know. They felt kind of static in ways when I was reading that series that I feel like Apollo and Meg definitely don't feel reading this series. So I'm having a fun time. My like foray into children's literature has been amazing, really great. And that's all I'm going to talk about in this video because I'm so freaking hungry and my mom keeps interrupting me while I'm filming, making me feel like a 16-year-old girl all over again. But yeah, I have had a great time reading Rick Riordan's series. So far, I think I would give the Trials of Apollo a solid 4 out of 5 stars as like a series overall. I want to do a dedicated review video to that series though, because I feel like that one is the one that brings up the most interesting questions about like today's society, more so than Heroes of Olympus and the original Percy Jackson series. And yeah, I'm also currently reading the Crazy Rich Asians series, which is a fun thing to do as a newly minted socialist. It's really interesting to read about like insane capitalist decadence that I think is like super wasteful when I am like, I don't know. Yeah, so I'm reading about the Crazy Rich Asians series and I think I'm going to do a dedicated video to that too, because I know that was like, I'm probably like 2 years too late because the movie came out a while ago, but like that, I don't know, I just feel like that's a really interesting series to have a conversation on. Oh yeah, and my friend's dad let me borrow Plot Against America by Philip Roth, which is this kind of like alternate history book that's like, what if Nazism had happened in the United States? So I'm gonna start reading that probably today on election day, so that I can get it back to him by the time my friend goes back home from college for Thanksgiving, and 2, because I feel like it's gonna be super topical. But yeah, I think I'm gonna wrap it up. I hope you enjoyed. Oh, this is today's look. I look like my mom, which I don't love, but I love the like act of putting makeup on. I think it's like super relaxing and therapeutic. This is the finished look. Watch out for a video about the Crazy Rich Asians series. Watch out for a video about the Trials of Apollo series. Maybe a comparison piece about the Plot Against America versus 2020 America. And my room redecoration video will probably be going up at some point in November. I can't make any promises because I am literally in my final semester of college and trying to graduate with honors, so still a lot going on. But I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. I hope I was able to give you some kind of like relief or relaxation in what I'm sure is a very difficult time for a lot of people. I am not excited, definitely, about the prospect of a Joe Biden presidency. I was 1000% Bernie or bust. But, you know, it'll be better than whatever the fuck it is we're living in right now. Because this shit, this is a mess. I hate it here.